So good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Josh. I'm the director of the Twilley Sales Academy here at ECU. We started 2 years ago, and happy to see a lot of my students here in the audience and former students here in the audience. And I talk about getting involved in sales because it'll change your life. It really will. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to our speaker this morning, Richard Twilley. He's an '89 ECU grad. He was actually president of the AMA when he attended. They did not have a sales program. He also went to Harvard Business School and the executive management program. He has over 35 years of experience working in high-level sales for technology companies. So I would say he's a resident authority on the field of sales. So in business, nothing happens until somebody sells something. Think about that. Nothing happens until somebody sells something. Sales people are the tip of the spear when it comes to sales. So you want to lead a company, get into sales. You want to grow, I would say, you want to grow with the company, start with sales. A lot of you are marketing majors. Statistically, your first job will be sales. Statistically. So Richard actually just recently established the Richard Twilley Sales Academy, gave $4.5 million endowment to start the program, and the program is named after him. I'm slowing down my introduction because he's not quite ready yet. So it is now my pleasure to introduce Richard Twilley.
All right, thank you, John. All right, so this is how you kind of got to do it on the fly. Thanks for the AV. Why don't you take that in case I get feedback? Thank you, John. As he just said, I'm Richard Twilley. But I'd like to spend, probably, I know I got 45 minutes, and I've got a deck that's put together. And the topics that I'm going to discuss with you, we could spend an entire semester together. So I'm just going to be very direct, and hopefully I'll stimulate your cognitive ability to come up with some questions. Maybe catch me in the hallway or catch me wherever. Hit me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty good at responding. So I want to thank Dean Mike Harris and John Chapman for inviting me to share some of my insights around this year's conference theme. The conference theme was Think, Value, Communicate, and Lead. Think, value, communicate, and lead. And I'll begin sharing some background of me as a student at East Carolina. Because of this university, the amazing foundation I built as I entered the corporate world. Now, my presentation is going to be diabolically different than Matt Crisp, who is, again, a dear friend and an incredible pirate. But what I'm going to tell you is a complete different journey I took. Still ended up, maybe not as robust as Matt, but we still ended up at the same place where we're doing okay. But before I do, I want to call your attention to the pirate behind me. Because there's a definition, and what I'm going to start my discussion around is the word authenticity, which is way overused in the business world, especially in the corporate world. We kind of put it together that it's, everyone says, well, I want to be authentic. We're going to have a deeper discussion around authenticity, but there's a dear friend of mine that I had the opportunity to meet at Harvard. His name is Dr. Adam Grant. He wrote a book called Think Again. And his definition of authenticity is, go to my, Tom, there we go. You guys should have told me there's no pirate behind you. I should have been a better presenter knowing why are all these blank stares at me. I don't get anybody doing this yet, but I'm going to get you doing this, I promise you that. So Adam Grant wrote a book, and his definition of authenticity means embracing the gap between what you firmly believe inside, what's in your core. That's the only thing that no one else, except maybe whatever your religious beliefs are, but there is nothing, no one knows what's in your core. You're the only one that knows that. And you should figure that out as quick as you can. But it's going to be a lifelong journey. I promise you that. But here's the pendulum that switches around authenticity. Look at what Adam says, and he follows up. He goes, however, he doesn't put however, that's me, comma, semicolon. However, what you reveal to the outside world. That means some things that are true to your core, you don't have to reveal that. It will be revealed in other ways. And we're going to have a little discussion about that. So this is the book that I brought. It's somewhat of a prop for me. It's got a highlighter in it, and it's warm. It's pretty well used. But it's called Think Again by Adam Grant. Shoot me an email or a LinkedIn. I'll give it. It's a phenomenal book. Keep it the rest of your life. Read it, reread it. And in your darkest days, read it and reread it. Because the one thing that you're going to be able to control is right here. And how to think. You know, I laugh sometimes when I have 3 bonus children, and they're always talking about the influencers. And I'm like, wow, I couldn't imagine someone influencing my decision that much. So what his premise is that we grow up with biases. We all grew up differently. You know, you heard Matt and I came from, I came from Aden, North Carolina, which is a little bit larger than Chocowinity, but not as nice as Washington. We're going to talk a little bit, but like I said, we could spend all semester getting you conditioned around rethinking your position. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It means stop what you would traditionally do and rethink, is this the right thing to do? But more to come. Let's fast forward. I don't have a clicker, so we're gonna use a different methodology. So I'm going to go over a little bit of my bio quickly. As Matt did, I called it a journey line. I don't have 18 years, unfortunately. I would bore you. I have 35 years. I know you're right. Yeah, I was young. So I'm going to start with my bio. It's really a timeline. We'll go through it very quick. And then the topic that I want, there's 3 fundamental things I'm going to leave you with. That's it. Most people can't remember more than 2, but I'm going to really stretch you because you're a pirate, and we're going to go 3. 3 traits that you must master, in my humble opinion, because I put this toward my success because I spent a lifetime trying to master these 3 traits. And it's not easy. Even now that my business career in a Fortune 80 company running a $1.5 billion business has come to an end, I still can't reprogram myself to think any differently than any project I attached or attacked. Just like this presentation, maybe a little bit overkill, but as Dean Harris said, you show up early. Matt Chris says you show up early and you be the last to leave. So I owe it to you to try to give you the best and not just sit up here and tell you about some old guy who's had a long, wonderful career. That's not what I'm here to do today. So let's jump into my bio very, very quickly. You'll see here in 1989, I graduated from the East Carolina University with a BSBA in marketing. And back then we had 2 tracks of marketing. You had retail marketing, whatever. I'm sorry, it was cool. And then you had the marketing strategy side, and I wanted to go on the marketing strategy side because my whole interest was I wanted to be a marketing researcher. Boy, has my career really gone to the other side of the world. I wanted to be a market researcher. Not only did I want to do market research, I wanted to do primary research. That means I wanted to run focus groups. At least I didn't choose something boring like being a data research analyst. So I started in 1989, I graduated, but what really made me who I am today are the people that touched my life. Like, you'll remember your dean, Michael Harris. See, I owe it to the College of Business Dean, Ernest Uri. I still know his name today at 25 years old. Marketing department chair, you have John Gerstow. That's what I had. I had Ed Wheatley. And my advisor, who there's no way I would have been successful without her, Hava Merrick. And many faculty members. There's a gentleman here, Dr. Jim Westmore, who's probably put his fingerprint on more people than anybody in the history of East Carolina University. And Jim, your dear friend, again, I honor you, and I honor your friendship. You have to be here. They made a significant investment as I navigated college career choices. Very similar to Matt. He could have gone many, many different ways. And I chose a way and ended up where I am now, very different than the way I chose. And I want you to know that's okay. Because I ended up at the place where I needed to be. And I was in sales. And then I went into sales leadership. And then I had the great opportunity to build an organization from the scratch, from the ground up. And turn that organization into a multi-million dollar, $100 million a year, producing with over $1.5 billion in annual revenues. And we were able to accomplish that in 9 years. 9 years. But I was honored at East Carolina University to lead the collegiate chapter of the American Marketing Association as president. And I was determined that we could compete nationally. Listen, there's a theme here, isn't it? Twilley Sales Academy. We can compete nationally at the American Marketing Association, which is something that we have never done in the history of East Carolina, and we can do it on national first place awards on marketing strategy and execution of our business plans. We won. We won 3 awards that year. I had the chance to go to Chicago to Wacker Drive. Any of you that are in AMA, you know the name Wacker Drive. And that moment was an epiphany for me because I decided at that moment that I wanted to work for a big company. I was in Chicago, it was noisy. I'm from little Aden, North Carolina, about 2,500 people, and that's on a good day. And I went to Chicago and I was blown away. I was got to sit my first time in a boardroom. I like this. I really like this. So I credit the AMA kind of giving me the opportunity to take chances, and that's exactly what Matt was telling you. You have to, you don't know you're ever going to be rewarded, but if you don't take a chance, you'll never know you're going to be rewarded. You'll never have any idea unless you take chances. Now, my good friend Matt Slate will tell you they need to be calculated. So let's get into 3 crucial traits. I also call this as a 3-legged stool. And just let me stop before you change that up. Just one thing you see here, that's the most important part of this slide, is not what I've done or how long I've done it, but I've done it a long time, and I did it in 2 companies. You see many names up there. Within the corporate world, I went through so many mergers and acquisitions. And those of you who choose to go into the corporate world will realize that there's something called layoffs. And I was always able to avoid being laid off. I was always one of those employees that got selected. And I think it's because I showed up early, I worked the hardest, but I made sure that I didn't press to impress, but I remained relevant. Relevancy is crucial to your success. No matter what you're doing, I want to be relevant in your lives as a philanthropist person who put together the Twilley Academy of Sales Leadership. I want to invest back in you, but you have to accept it. And you're going to have to take some chances. become relevant. I wanted to stay relevant. I didn't want to retire and just go off and buy an island. I wanted to remain relevant. And I thought, my way of now being relevant at this stage of my life is you. It's to serve. That's what East Carolina is all about. It's to serve. Our motto is to serve. Be proud of that. Now, let's jump into these critical three really quick. Here's authenticity, right? Look at all the, I put a little word game back here. Humble, reliable, honest. I also call it your true self. Only you know what's in here. Figure it out. You can get through life without not knowing, but the journey's a lot better if you do. Because if you know your true self, you'll never compromise on your principles. And in the second part of this conference that you're in, think value. Values driving you back to ethics. Never compromise. But the only way to do that is you got to know who you are. You have to know what your own internal compass is telling you, what direction you're headed. And you're not too young to figure it out. You're at the right place. Your brain is at the right place to start thinking about it. Thinking about who you are. It's okay. You may not know you. I don't really know who I am, Richard. Yes, you do. Because when you look in the mirror, there's no one else who's looking back at you. You've got to figure out, are you okay with that person looking back? And have you done the best of your ability to be fair, equitable, and inclusive? And if you can say that, get it done. Let's go. And if you can't, work on it. Because there's a thing out there called narcissism. Some people have it. And I was just having a conversation with my good friend Nick Crabtree and a gentleman I just met, Pirate. We went immediately to leadership took over, very narcissistic. They didn't use the word, drove the company in the ground because they wouldn't listen. I'm out there on a fire drill, but you thought it was really a networking opportunity that my good friend Matt Chris staged. And that's my story. That's why we're out there. And I learned something and I came back. Now let's jump into the second critical thing, is goal setting. And this is really a pet peeve of mine. You can, So goal setting is what I try to pride myself in doing, and I can tell you it's one of the reasons why I think I've been successful. And I can also tell you, I said it was my pet peeve. Because I'm around people all the time that say they have goals, but they haven't put them through any framework. So goals, don't confuse them with desires. A lot of people confuse real solid goals with I desire or I want. And remember, you marketing graduates know that nobody wants anything. Our job is to turn it into a need. Because when you need it, traditionally, what will you do? You'll buy it. Goal setting. I was recently in a meeting and we were talking about goals. And it was not in East Carolina, I can say that, but I've gone out and helped some other companies. Now that I'm not fully employed, I'm open for employment. I just retired. First time I saw my name badge, it said retired. I'm not really sure yet. I like that, so I'm going to ask the dean to change that from now on with any interaction I have in East Carolina. However, goal setting. People set goals. They go, yeah, I think I'll get 1,000. And they go, and they wink, and go, yeah, we got 900 in our pocket. Well, then your goal is only 100. Why would you set such low expectations of yourself? Well, you know why? Because you want to look like a hero. You want to walk around. And that's the ego thing that gets you in trouble. And then when that ego gets you in trouble, then that little narcissist comes in and goes, that was good, wasn't it? Want some more? Not a good thing. So once you get past this, I'm going to give you the framework for setting goals. Again, we can spend another semester on it. Very clearly, it's called the SMART criteria. It's right behind me. It's a framework for setting goals. Is your goal specific? Is it measurable? Is it achievable? I didn't say it was a layup. I said, is it achievable? Now, it has to be somewhat realistic. Has to be somewhat realistic. I mean, me getting in a 31 pair of pants is not going to happen ever again. I'm confident. And that's not realistic, and that's not achievable, no matter how hard or how much surgery I have. Is it relevant? I go back to that word I just threw at you. Is it relevant? Or does it create relevancy? Does it create relevancy? Don't forget that. Does it create relevancy? And is it time bound? Is it time bound? It has to have a beginning and an end. You heard Matt say he was heads down, heads down, heads down, and then all of a sudden they come up and look. Well, he looked at his business plan. Then he go back and heads down, heads down. What Matt was checking for was not how much incredible amount of money he was making. He was really checking for relevancy. Are we still on track? Is this relevant to our business model? It'll change your life, I promise you. But once you use the SMART criteria, then you got to check the goal. And that's called the GROW formula. It's right behind me. And I'm, again, happy to share any of this with you. We can Zoom anytime you want to. I got plenty of time on my hands. But the GROW model checks your goal. The GROW says, G, put my goal out there. The second of the goal says, what's reality? Okay? You can't have reality if you're not checking in with yourself. You can't live in reality unless you have authenticity, or what I like to go true self. You can't. It's impossible. It will never happen. So your goals will always fail if you can't really be honest with yourself and others what reality is. Important. The next part of goal, once you figure out, are you relevant, which is different from reality? Is it okay, what opportunities do I have? Are there opportunities? What are the opportunities that I can build around achieving this goal? And then the W of the formula is your way forward. So you go, yep, I got it. Put the business plan together, Matt. Let's go make hundreds of millions of dollars. That's the framework. But the second piece of information I want to share with you called setting goals for yourself. Whether getting up in the morning and making your bed is a goal, set goals. Forget the to-do list. Start setting goals for yourself now. I never thought I would have ended up in sales. I was a pretty good product person. And I was a really good marketing analyst. I could conduct a focus group like nobody. At least that was, what I thought. But one day the sales director came in and said, Twilley, here you've been going on a bunch of sales calls with my people. Now that was back then when you get called into the director's office, there's a good possibility you were going to get a little box to carry your stuff out too. And I said, well, sir, they asked me to go out with you. He said, I know they did, and I'm glad you're doing it. And I said, well, thank you. He said, where'd you go? Eastern Carolina. I said, that's the East Carolina University for you, sir. I thought, well, if you're going to fire me, I'm going to walk out like I'm leading a parade. You hear me? And he said, have you ever thought about going into sales? I said, never crossed my mind. He said, did you have any sales in college? I said, I took one course by David Glasscock. And it was Introduction to Sales, and it was nothing. I mean, I don't mean that. He was great, but it was one class. There was no concentration. We had the AMA, we had the finance group, and that was it. We were basically a marketing, and we had taught one sales class. And he goes, just like that. He said, well, I think you got a good motor, which in the old days, I guess that means a brain. And he said, I want you to join my team. I said, okay, I'll do it. Especially when he told me what I had to do and what they were going to pay me. I was kind of like Matt, like I didn't have a lot of financial obligations at that time in my life. I'm like, living in Florida, living in Miami, doing this, or what you're going to, I can get used to this. Florida was a pretty good gig. Within the 35 years and only 2 companies, I've lived in New York City, I lived in Kansas City, I lived in Los Angeles, what we like to refer to as Thousand Oaks. I lived 10 years in Las Vegas, had an opportunity to live 2 years in Orlando, and 5 years in Miami. And then recently, I got recruited to come back, and I had aging parents, and you get to a certain place in your career where I said no, but, or yes, and. I said, yes, I will take the role of rebuilding a Fortune 80 company, or part of an 80 company, which will be Charter Communications. But I'm going to live in Charlotte, where I can get to New York as often as you need me, or Stamford, Connecticut, where our corporation headquarters was. I can get on the fuselage and be there, but I have aging parents. That's more important to me than what you're asking me to do. Again, true self. Most people would have said, you've lost your mind. Are you crazy? I put my aging parents above my career, but it was my decision. But it's amazing how many armchair quarterbacks wanted to go and influence me differently. And the people that were recruiting me respected that decision. And they said, well, how about Charlotte? Close to your parents. They didn't know Charlotte was 4.5 hours because they never heard of Greenville, North Carolina. It's unfortunate. Nor Aden or Chocolatey. So I moved to Charlotte. And the last thing I'm going to share with you, you'll change the deck for me, Tom, is passion. It's commitment. Passion and commitment. I mean, I think there's a reason I was never laid off, and I was always asked to move somewhere to take a new job. And you heard Matt say, I've never done that before. It's scary. And there's been many employees that I've had under my leadership that I feel sorry for now when I was a junior leader going into a really large corporation and really not knowing what the heck I was doing and taking a chance and learning it as I went along. There's no manual for that. You're getting a way better education than I'll ever have just because of the experience and the opportunity of being associated with people like Matt Slade, people like Matt Chris, people like Nick Crabtree. You don't realize it now, but you will. One thing passion does is, and I've got a little thing up here that says, this is kind of, I've got this on my wall in my office. It's not work, it's my passion. I've been a corporate guy all my life, but I luckily went into sales, and it changed my life. I have never worked a day in my life. I haven't. I loved what I did. Were there HR issues? Oh, you wouldn't have any idea. If I even told you, you wouldn't believe me, and I couldn't tell you. Are there headaches that comes with that? Are there challenges? Is there work-life balance? See, that's what I'm saying. Without being authentic to yourself and having commitment and passion and true self, you can't enroll others. And that's what leaders really do. It's about enrollment. Sign up. You got to have somebody to believe in. You got to know that whoever's leading this ship, right? Dr. Harris is at the helm of the College of Business. You have to have confidence that he's leading us in the right direction as our captain. And then we have our owner and our illustrious, wonderful Philip Rogers as our chancellor. We are so fortunate to have such a, there's not been another Philip Rogers since the name that you've heard of it. I'm going to say it, Leo Jenkins. He won't be the next Leo Jenkins, and you're a part of it. It's enrollment. Sorry for my passion. Sometimes it gets a little unbridled. I'd love to have your questions now. I hope that you realize that the things that I wanted to share with you were, again, I did make notes, but I did not sleep, and when I did this morning in the mirror, I nailed it. So you have to. What I did want you to know, I have this speech memorized, so I'm not winging it on you. I hate that. You gave me your time. I want to make sure I did not abuse the time that you were willing to give me this morning. I want to encourage you to incorporate learning how to be authentic, your true self. That's only something that you can do. But what is synonymous with that is inner peace. You have inner peace, you make good decisions. Awesome to have inner peace. It's great. if you follow goal setting and take it seriously now at your age, you'll have clarity of purpose. You'll have clarity of purpose. I promise you. Set goals. You'll be purposeful in everything you do. And if you're purposeful in what you do, you automatically become relevant. Keep yourself relevant. And then when it comes to passion, it's all about excitement and enjoyment. Passion should be something about fun. Look forward to it. So those are the three things in a nutshell that if I could share with you across the board of what made me successful. And I'm open to take your questions around career, around being in sales. I didn't spend a lot of time on sales because there's a lot of multidisciplinary people in here, and I wanted you to understand that the tenets, when you graduate, those three tenets, in my opinion, are the three tenets, and I call them traits, as you remember, that you need as you go out into the world of work. And they are going to take you a lifetime to master. But I encourage you to focus on mastery. It's work. I still do it. So, I don't know how this goes, but I've got opportunity to do questions. I don't know if you need mics. I can probably hear you, but this is better for me than screaming at you, so that's why I have the mic. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Yeah. Now I'll get really informed. Thank you. Okay, that's so let me read the question if I miss this. The question is, how do you, if she's vice president of your club, how do you get feedback? How do you get feedback from your members? How do you know you're hitting the mark? We call that student enrichment or member enrichment. It's a big thing. And so everyone has different styles. You can put up a survey monkey, which is anonymous, and you're going to get a lot of feedback. You'll look for patterns, and you may do a Pareto chart. Remember, Pareto is you get into business, right? 80% of your revenues normally come from 20% of your customers. Right? So you look at the thing, you go after what's the most important thing you need to fix. I prefer, because I want to engage and enroll. I'm more of doing even skip levels and pulling a group together and leaning on something that I learned so well at East Carolina University. We just don't call them focus groups anymore. And I would also tell you this. Sometimes it's okay, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, you can be biased in who you ask because not all opinions are the same. Okay? Because of all of our expertise is not the same. So you, as a collector, need to figure out really what do you want to know. Do you want to know the temperature? Do a monkey survey and send it out randomly. Who cares? But if you're trying to fix a specific issue that you might think is going on, I'm a big kind of one-on-one focus group. Let's talk about the issues. No retribution, no nothing. And if you come across as you care, people will love to talk to you. If they think that you've got their best interest at heart, you want to improve that club on their behalf, not yours. See, a narcissist would want to do it for them. You do it because you want to enrich the lives of others. You're unstoppable. I'm sorry about what's next.
Yeah. If you have a question, please stand up, loud and proud.
Yes, sir. I do. Okay, well, let's think about this. So, as you noticed, John Chapman said, nothing happens until a sales made. And, the definition of a sales is, right? if you don't, I'll tell you, is, little prop. Just, if it doesn't work, it's Vice Chancellor Dibbles' problem. He's the one that got me in on this mess. I have a product, and I have currency. Different from your answer, but I'm going to tie it into your question. But the definition of a sale is nothing but an exchange. It's an exchange of value. No, it's not. It's an exchange of perceived value in exchange for something of nominal or higher value. There's the exchange. I just bought a wallet for $1. I know what this costs. It's a hell of a deal. Same thing with people. And what you have to be careful. There's a mentor in my room. You have to be really careful because what your stepfather told you is right, but you have to be so careful that you don't press to impress. You work on your authenticity. Show up. Introduce yourself. Take advantage of opportunities like this, even if you don't know anybody. You know, people give me a hard time all the time because they go, "Why do you always wear your name badge on your right lapel?" That's not wrong. You just don't want to mess up your fancy pirate square. I know. When I shake your hand, what are you looking at? What are you looking at when I shake your hand? You're looking at my name. And I'm going to go, "Hey, I'm Richard Twilley," and have your elevator speech ready. First time I met Jack Dibba, he had us, we were over at the center I can't remember where it was. We were over at the college in Carl Rogers' room, and I was up there, and Vice Chancellor had his son up there, and immediately, you know, there was a connection immediately because Jack told me what he was doing, where he was, and now I know he's engaged, and I've met his fiance, and I mean, it's turned into, that one exchange has turned into that now Jack and I follow each other. I follow Jack on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn. But that one exchange, it's an exchange. And so what I'm going to tell you to do is in business, what do you want to do with that exchange? You want to monetize it. You want to monetize that exchange. But in personal relationships, it's still an exchange. What do you want to do then? Next questions to you. You want me to answer it for you? I'm not putting you on the spot. Be relevant. Be relevant. Be okay to ask a question if you meet someone in an industry that you don't know. Go, "I don't know much about the food service business. Why don't you tell me about that?" Well, what do you think? Have these questions. Don't look like have these questions in your brain. What's the number one challenge you see in doing wholesale food service business? How it is working with the government, Nick, handling all of these restrictions and compliances that you have to do. That's what I would tell you. Your stepfather is absolutely correct. And you get more than one impression to make a good impression. You get many impressions. I just tell you to maximize your first impression the most you can and be prepared for it. And I would try it on your friends first. And everybody going like, "What is wrong with him?" But once you get into a routine, and that's the way you rethink and retrain your brain. And then the last thing I would tell you is what I learned. We have two of these little things here. They're called ears. We have one of these for a reason. You should listen way more than you ever talk. But that's why you got to have good questions. And they can't be dichotomous questions, yes, no. They got to be open-ended questions where someone can then get them to talk about themselves. That's not a sales trick. Who doesn't want to not talk about themselves? I mean, heck, look at me. I'm having a blast up here. Not really. Good? Hit me up LinkedIn anytime. All right? I'll give you my phone number anytime you need to talk. Who else? Yes, sir. Philip. That's the toughest thing you do as a leader, because it's really tough in the industry I was in corporate world, where it's maybe a little different than Matt's world, because Matt's an entrepreneur. 7 of his partners, his buddies got together, heads down. They probably knew who to bring in, and they kept it somewhat in a controlled environment. And I don't know that about Matt, but I'm just, from your, this is all I gain from just your friendship. I get all this, and your friendship. One of the things that I felt like I was very successful is I always put people in jobs that were way more talented than me. And I built a solid team around what do they bring to the table. So I didn't do a money ball, if you know what I'm talking about, where you look at everybody's statistics, but I built a team. But it's harder because as I was a sales manager, I only had 8 people to worry about. Then I was a sales director, I only had 140 people to worry about. Then I was an assistant vice president, and I had 300 people to worry about. Then I was a regional vice president, and I had 1,000 people to worry about. Then I was a group vice president, I have 3,500 people to worry about. There's no way I could worry about 3,500 people, Philip. So I had to make sure, and I called them lieutenants, I had to make sure that I had people who believed the same things I believed as a leader. So if you weren't authentic, I could weed you out. If you weren't good at setting goals and understanding that goals, you wouldn't make it on the team. And if you didn't have commitment and passion for what you do, no matter if you're an accountant or anything, because I tell people all the time, nothing happens. The lights are not on this building. Someone had to sell everything in this room other than us. Somebody had to make an exchange. This is the society we live in. And I will tell you, some of you will go to business to consumer, so it's B2C. But when you go to B2B, you're going to find out that as the more complex sale or more complex product you're involved in, it makes the clicking on Amazon not efficient. But I love when Matt told you about fax machines, and I'm getting to your question, Phil. But what improved Matt's business more than anything? Technology. I love to see that technology was a catalyst to enable change. So I was in a technology business, so I made sure when I hired people that they understood not what technology does or doesn't do, but what it enables. What's the possibilities of what it could do? There's the difference. There's how you rethink. Because there's 1,000 people that in sales that they call show up and throw up, right? They come in, they start talking about their product. And don't you want something? Real people, real great salespeople know that every buyer only has 3 principles that they make decisions on. Only 3. See, this whole thing of 3 is coming up to you, isn't it? Well, they either want to fix something, i.e. it's broken. That's an easy sale, right? You have a flat tire, car won't start, whatever you take it, that's a sale. Because what's a sale again? It's an exchange. So you got to fix something. That's the easiest thing you can go into. So if you want to go into easy sales, go into stuff where always broke. The next phase that someone wants to do is they want to accomplish something. That's where I found my niche, because I wanted, and I'm on the foundation board, and I love it because I see what we're trying to accomplish. And if I can be a part of helping an organization or a person accomplish something, that gives me great joy. And that's the space I like to live in. And then the other space, the people you make a decision to buy something, is because you're trying to avoid something. And in my business, selling technology and cybersecurity, most CIOs wanted to avoid being fired because their shelf life was only about 3 years. So Philip, that's how I built a team, and I would look for people who had shared values of this 3 tenets, traits that I just talked about, but understood that you had a different grasp of what technology is. It would be the same business if I was in the food service business or any other business, or I'm in the financial business. You just have to make sure what is your business trying to enable, and you surround your people that understand your vision and have passion and commitment to achieve your goals. All I'm telling you is you go through your career, it's harder and harder and harder because you have less control. Your circle of concern gets larger, which is not good, and your circle of control gets smaller. Not good, but it is what it is. Because when you realize you can't control things, is you have to lead with purpose. Because you are not going to be able to control all the little things that go wrong in a day in an employee's life or in your life. You're just not going to be able to. So that's the best advice I can give you there. But thank you for your question, Philip.
On that, last thing I want to do in the great discussion, I want to make sure so I had a chance to work with three facilities. We do nutrition pilot, really like facility, the assistant with the leadership. It shows you that those two concepts. Richard, thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Thank you all.